Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And normal service has been resumed, although we are still talking about clowns. This particular clown, though, is of course Humza Yousaf. Now, with only, 3 days to go before the start of the SNP Conference in Aberdeen, they've looked into the ideas cupboard and they've seen that there's nothing there. The cupboard indeed is bare. And so they're regurgitating old ideas. Now, they have this current Skexit plan where if they win the most seats, not a majority of seats, not a majority of votes or anything, they just happen to be the biggest party, they're going to take that as their mandate for independence. Although they know full well that it isn't, and the Westminster government will just ignore it. But they've got nothing else to do. They've got to fill the long hours of conference. They've got 3 whole days, and they've got nothing to say, nothing to offer. It'll be crickets and tumbleweeds, unless they have to say, we can do this. But it's a non-starter, and everybody knows it's a non-starter, because it is, to use their words, devoid of credibility. But they're going to have to go with it because they literally have nothing else. This is a party that has completely run out of ideas. And so Humza Yousaf is going to stand there and sort of basically tell people a load of old rubbish. And people will sit there and they'll clap like performing seals, but even they will know it's a load of old rubbish. Anyway, let's have a look and see why Humza Yousaf is the man of the moment. The man with no idea. Here goes. So he's going to be driving up to Aberdeen in the next few days. This big hall, huge hall. And he's going to look out at all this empty space because he's only going to have about 400 or 500 people there. A hall designed to hold 10,000 people or something like that. And honestly, you could have had it in a school, a junior school assembly hall. That would have been enough. But no, they've hired this huge, great big hall. And nobody will go there because it's bloody Aberdeen. And most of the supporters live in the central belt. It's a long way to go. There's snow expected this weekend. It's going to make travel awkward. It's going to be an absolute failure before it starts. But then this is a man who's so used to failure, he doesn't even notice. But anyway, out of touch, Humza Yousaf, under growing pressure to axe Skexit plan as it is devoid of credibility, as indeed the SNP and Humza Yousaf himself. And this is after the crushing defeat in Rutherglen, of course. The First Minister is set to face his first and last SNP conference as leader, but he could struggle to get his independence motion voted through amid growing opposition to it. He'll struggle with everything. People have wised up, even in his own party now. People have wised up that this man is a moron. He's a serial failure. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he literally has not a clue what he's doing. There's no direction. Hapless Humza Yousaf is under growing pressure to axe his crackpot Skexit plan as it lacks credibility due to his party's thrashing in Rutherglen and Hamilton West. Yeah, they're talking about, we can get Skexit if we get the most seats. You ain't getting the most seats, mate. Not anymore. Those days are gone. Ignore it. They are past tense, as indeed is most of SNP policy. The First Minister is heading into his first SNP conference as leader on the back of infighting and a humiliating by-election loss. And the infighting continues every day. I'm talking about either this MP or that MSP or some major advisor talking behind his back, telling tales out of school and saying that the party's in disarray, it can't agree on this or it can't agree on that. You're getting people resigning from the party. You're getting people resigning from Parliament. You're getting people being thrown out and losing the whip. It's all over. The SNP is literally exploding. It's going to just fall apart. And it is, as an outsider watching and looking in, it is popcorn, isn't it? It's popcorn television. Anyway, getting back to it, but it is his independent strategy which has come under the harshest scrutiny, as his proposals have been called into question by some of his MPs and indeed some of his MSPs, some of the other supporters and things like that, as well as veteran nationalists. Now, of course, we know by veteran nationalist, you mean the likes of Fergus Ewing, of Alex Neil, even, what's his name, Angus MacNeil. They're all questioning it. Kate's saying it's wrong. There's so many questioning it. So many people saying it's unworkable. But he's got literally opens the cupboard, looks for the ideas, and there's nothing there. There's cobweb and an old crisp. That's it. Bare. They have literally run out of steam. Anyway, he wants to call for the breakup of the UK if his party wins the most seats at the next general election. However, this could mean the SNP lose more than half of their MPs and still will claim a mandate from the Prime Minister. And he'll just laugh in their face. But the defeat in South Lanarkshire has poured scorn on this plan. Of course it has. They're finished. Alex Neil, just mentioned him, a former Scottish Government minister, has called on the First Minister to drop his proposal as it was now devoid of credibility following the by-election loss. And he also branded the party out of touch with Scots over its failures to deliver any popular policies amid a lack of focus on improving the lives of ordinary Scots. That's because the SNP haven't had a single policy. If you look, as I say this repeatedly, if every time you look at every policy they've had, it's always been a green policy, and that's why every single one of them has failed. Because I know it's a hard concept to get, but actually the Greens are even more stupid than the SNP. It's bewildering, isn't it? Anyway, SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn has also endorsed the most seats plan because he too is a moron. Also, he's got nothing else to offer. Also, he's likely to lose his seat, so it doesn't really matter to him, does it? He's faced a mini rebellion of his own with a number of MPs backing a de facto Hollywood referendum in 2026 as well. But this is massively watered down from Nicola Sturgeon's original 50+1 popular votes idea. Now, I actually would say, and I'm going to be genuine, I actually think the 50+1 plan would be a legitimate excuse for a referendum. Wouldn't mean they'd win the referendum, but I do see the argument that if one party that stands on the basis of wanting independence was to get 50% of the votes plus one, then that could be taken as a mandate, not for independence though, but for the referendum for an independence vote. However, even then, I don't think they'd win the referendum because, as I say, there's SNP supporters who will vote for the SNP, but they don't necessarily want independence, and so it's getting. I mean, it's speculative, of course, but I do see the legitimacy of her call of 50% plus one of the popular vote. None of this, you get that vote, second vote here and all that. It's got to be the first choice popular vote. And there is that possibility. But what do you know? Arguments for a different video. Anyway, Mr. Neil, who retired as an MSP in 2021, told the Daily Record that his general election proposal should be scrapped to kick off a wider reset of Mr. Yousaf's leadership. Well, he's right in that. You do need to reset the leadership, but not with Yousaf in charge. He is too divisive and stupid. The First Minister said that he was going to have to find a way to perk up supporters after the crushing defeat in Rutherglen and Hamilton West, where Scottish Labour won 58% of the vote and achieved a 20% swing. Well, if you really want to cheer up the voters of your party, Mr. Yousaf, I suggest writing a small letter, packing your bags and leaving. Seriously. The former Health Secretary admitted that he was not surprised by the scale of the SNP defeat. Everyone else was. They expected them to lose, but the scale of it was like astounding, wasn't it? He said, "I've thought for months we were heading in that direction because we've stopped listening to the people." Well, you never listen to the people because the people keep saying they don't want independence and you keep pushing it. Start listening to the people. He said, "We're not concentrating on the big issues. We should be massively expanding house building and addressing the issues in education and ditching stuff that's for the chatterati." Well, actually, that's sensible. I would certainly go with the house building. House building kicks off so many industries. Because, of course, obviously you're getting the construction industry done. You're getting the supply lines for the construction industry. By having more houses built, you're then boosting the things for things like B&Q and Wix and all that. People going in. You do kickstart an economy by house building. This is a well-known thing. Ultimately, everything comes out of the earth. All wealth comes from the ground up, be it farming, mining, or building. Anyway, he says, "I think we've lost touch in recent times, even before Nicola Sturgeon stood down. I think Humza needs to ditch the label of Mr. Continuity and instead be Mr. Change of Direction. I think be Mr. Change of Leadership. And he's not so much Mr. Continuity as Mr. Fail. I mean, if Roger Hargreaves was to write a book called Mr. Fail, it would look suspiciously like, I think, Humza Yousaf. Anyway, he said he should start the conference at the weekend. The first thing he should do is withdraw his motion, which says if the SNP wins the most seats at the general election, that will be a basis for independence negotiations. Because, of course, it's a double-edged sword. If they don't win the most seats, then that means people don't want independence, and they're going to have to face that. That line, he said, had no credibility before Rutherglen and is now totally devoid of credibility. It is. You just can't push that line. It's just not. It's not feasible at all. Plus, the UK government will just laugh at you. They'll just go, yeah, fine, yeah. Put the phone down and go, guy's an idiot. Anyway, he said it's a waste of time talking about a de facto referendum until we build up support for independence. Throughout the crisis in the SNP, he says, support for independence has remained high. Don't think so. He said, in my view, it would not take much to get up to 55% and above. Are you kidding me? It's at 39% on the last poll. He said, when you get to that level, Westminster cannot say no to the majority of Scottish people if there's a clear, consistent support for independence. That's the prerequisite for a referendum. So the overriding priority should be addressing day-to-day issues. If you truly want to win the referendum, you've got to present yourselves as people who can run Scotland efficiently. You want to say, look at our marvellous NHS that we've done. Look at all the transport links we've done. Look at the social care we have. Look at the policing we have. Look at the education we have. Insert policy. And show that you are a credible government. But while everything is failing, everything's falling apart, the waiting lists are growing, the police, is shrinking, education's in the gutter, substance abuse deaths are the worst in Europe, how can people trust you? They look at what you do and they go, no chance. Anyway, an SNP spokesperson said, our annual party conference is a chance for all 8 SNP members to come together to shape the party's strategy for creating a better, fairer and more prosperous future as an independent country. Doing the old National Socialist playbook of let's look to the future in this shiny, sunlit utopia that we will have if only you'll let us control every aspect of your lives in minute detail. What a sad bunch of losers. And it isn't going to happen, is it? Anyway, round off, come up. They must wake up every morning, look in the mirror and think, what's going to go wrong today? And everything does. They've got no policies. They're losing support. The money's dwindling. Everything they try to do fails. Humza Yousaf has aged terribly if you ever look at him. From the day in 6 months. He's aged 10 years in 6 months. He really is looking haggard. He's starting to go grey. Must be all the stress of trying to lead a party that's got literally no idea what it's doing. And where everything it tries to bring in is dead in the water before it even gets there. And the worst thing is, they know it. But what else are they to do? They've literally got nothing else to offer. And so they go on the old bandwagon of, independence for Scotland, freedom. And it's just a sad, sad example of a party that is failing to serve the people. It doesn't listen to the people. And he keeps talking about wanting to do the big issue. Well, to be honest, that's the big issue is the future of Scotland. Well, it's certainly, I think, the future of Humza Yousaf. And if you go through Broughty Ferry in about a year's time, you'll see this sad man standing on the corner by the co-op. Big issue, and it'll be Humza Yousaf. That's the only big issue he's going to tackle, isn't it? Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been entertaining. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And if you do see Humza buying the big issue, go and buy it from him. It's an okay magazine, to be honest. And he will need to feed his family. Bye.